Hi, this is a video response for Iman. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to do video responses in the comments anymore, so I thought I'd do a quick video for you. It's probably easier that way. I wasn't 100% sure exactly which part you were confused with, so I thought I'll go through this again, but I'll also show you two different ways that you can do this question. Initially, what this question is it is a substitution question. Okay, it's asking you to substitute for the letter t root 3 minus 2. So wherever you see a t, we're going to replace it with root 3 minus 2. So I can see a t there, so I'm going to put root 3 minus 2, and I've got 1 over t again. So I'm going to put the root 3 minus 2 there. So that's your first part. That is a simple substitution part of your question. The next part is we want to simplify, and there are different ways that we can do this. I guess two things for this to be simplified. Number one, it needs to have been rationalized. Okay, that's a very important step for something to be simplified. And number two, we often want a common denominator. I don't want two separate fractions. Denominator. Not great spelling there. Apologies. So there are two different ways you could do this. I could rationalize first and then get a common denominator, or I could get a common denominator first, and that's what I did in my initial video, and then I could rationalize. Now, what I'll say is, to be honest, you should always probably rationalize first, because there are some questions where if you rationalize last, it's just too difficult. Now, this question, it actually isn't. You can do either. And in my initial video, I rationalized at the end of the question. So I'm going to show you both different ways. I'm going to show you the way that I did it originally and the way that I would probably encourage you to do it. So what I did originally, I said, okay, well, I want a common denominator. That's currently over 1. So that means that I need to times the top and the bottom by root 3 minus 2. The reason I'm timesing it by root 3 minus 2 is I want the two denominators to be common. I want them to be the same value. That means if they are the same value, we simply add or subtract the top values together. But if I times the bottom by root 3 minus 2, then as we know with simplifying all fractions, we need to simplify by timesing the top by the same number. So what I end up getting is root 3 minus 2 squared plus 1 all over root 3 minus 2. If you want to use the quick rule and do the squaring by just squaring the first, timesing the middle terms and doubling it and squaring the last, you can do that. Otherwise, you can do it the longer way, which is root 3 times root 3, which is just 3. Root 3 times negative 2 is negative 2 root 3. Negative 2 times root 3 is negative 2 root 3. And negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Plus 1, because that's the 1 there, all over. Now remember, if I times these two together, I just get root 3 minus 2, which means we have a common denominator of root 3 minus 2. Now, you could have expanded it more quickly by just, as I said, that shortcut of doing perfect square. Otherwise, I can just simplify now by doing 3 minus 4 root 3 plus 5 all over root 3 minus 2. Now, initially, that's the first thing that we've done. Okay, we have covered this bottom part, a common denominator. So there's one denominator, all right? There's one fraction, I guess. So now what we can do is work on the second part of it, which is rationalizing, okay? Because if I don't rationalize, then it hasn't been simplified. I need to rationalize the denominator. So we do that by multiplying it by the opposite of what's in the bottom. So root 3 plus 2. Now the whole reason of doing that, we should remember, is that we create a difference of two squares. Because that means that when I multiply these out the long way, one part of it's going to be minus 2 root 3, the other part will be plus 2 root 3, and they'll cancel out. But I like to do it the quick way. So I need to multiply top and bottom by root 3 plus 2. This is slightly more challenging, and I guess in one respect, I probably didn't actually simplify that to its fullest, did I? I could have said 3 plus 5 is 8. And I'm going to do that now. So my apologies there. I should have simplified. That's because 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 1 is 8. I should have done that first. So my apologies. Okay, so we've got 8 minus, and I'm just going to rewrite that, just so otherwise it's going to get too confusing. 8 minus 4 root 3, just simplified the 8, so 3 plus 5, all over root 3 minus 2, times it by root 3 plus 2, over root 3 plus 2. That makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? Okay, so let's simplify. Oops. Okay, simplify that. So 8 times root 3 is just 8 root 3. 8 times 2 is positive 16. Minus 4 root 3 times root 3. Well, root 3 times root 3 is just 3. So minus 4 times 3 is minus 12. And then we get minus 4 times 2 is 8 root 3. All over. Now, it's a difference of 2 squares. So square the first is just 3. Minus square the last is 4. Remember our rule. We could have done it the long way and said root 3 times root 3 is 3. Then plus 2 root 3 minus 2 root 3. They cancel out, minus the 4. And then all I need to do from that forward is then write simplified 8 root 3 minus 8 root 3. Well, they cancel out. 16 minus 12 is 4 over 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So I'm going to put the negative over there, which is just going to equal to negative 4. Okay, so that is one way to do it. Now, remember I said whenever you do this question like this, you need to simplify by rationalizing and finding a common denominator. Now, I know that's the way I showed you initially. When I used to do this, I probably didn't follow this main rule, and I reckon you probably should. I always rationalize first. Okay, it can get you out of hot water when on some of the more challenging questions. So originally we had the t plus 1 over t, where t was root 3 minus 2. That's what we had originally, okay, right back to the beginning part. So let's see if I do it the other way, and let's see if perhaps if this is easier. So what I said, if, that's over 1, always rationalize first. Now this is rationalized, the first one, okay, because the denominator is not an irrational number. But the second part certainly is irrational. So if I times this by root 3 plus 2 over root 3 plus 2, so 1 times root 3 is root 3, 1 times 2 is 2, all over. Now that makes my difference of 2 squares. So root 3 squared is 3, minus square 2, I make 4. Now let's simplify. I get root 3 minus 2 over 1 plus root 3 plus 2 over, well, 3 take away 4 is negative 1. All right, this is probably going to be a little bit easier. Simplified, well, I don't need the over 1 there. So root 3 minus 2. Now, if I bring this negative up to the top part, because that's how we don't like to have a negative on the bottom, then what we need to do is we change the sign of the root 3, so the plus root 3 becomes a minus root 3, and the sign of the 2 becomes a negative 2, and it's all over 1. Do I need to put it there? Don't really. And then simplify. Root 3 minus root 3 disappears. Minus 2 makes negative 4, and look at that, will you? Exactly the same answer, and see, that was actually a bit easier, I think. Not much easier, but certainly a little bit easier. So my advice to you, Iman, is to rationalize first and then to find your common denominator. But you can do it either way for this question. It doesn't really matter, but there are some questions where it will get too difficult to rationalize at the end. So rationalizing at the beginning is always the easiest part. But again, for this question, my steps that I took was that I substituted the root 3 minus 2 where the two t's were. Okay, that created that first line here, and then I either rationalized or got a common denominator in one of the two orders that you saw. Okay, I hope this cleared up a little bit where those two things came from, the root 3 minus 2, and where the difference of two squares came from. Remember, difference of two squares always comes from rationalizing your denominator. Whenever you have a surd as part of your denominator, it is not simplified. You need to rationalize it in order to simplify that question. Okay, let me know if this helped or it didn't help. I'm certain I can show you a few different ways if that didn't make sense. Otherwise, yeah, I'm hoping that sort of cleared things up for you. Thanks for your kind feedback, Iman, and best of luck. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. Yeah, just drop me an email or a comment on the YouTube channel. Have a great day.